This is the High Stakes Lowdown, a RotoViz podcast brought to you by the Fantasy Football Players Championship. I'm Eric Balkman from the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour, the Better Sports Network, and the FFPC. You can connect with me on X at Eric Balkman and the FFPC on X at FFPC. Before we get into the show, I want to remind everyone that you can get a listeners-only 10% discount to RotoViz by using the code RVRadio2025. That's RV Radio 2025. Your subscription gives you unlimited access to all of the RotoViz content and tools, and it supports the podcast channel as well. Now, without further ado, here's the latest episode of the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. Hi, hello, and welcome to the latest edition of the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown for October 21st, 2025. My name is Eric Balkman. You can connect with me on the X at Eric Balkman, and we'll get into it here shortly tonight. This show is sponsored by the Fantasy Football Players Championship over at myffpc.com. And if you're looking for some weekly action at the FFPC, check it out at myffpc.com. The FFPC Weekly Challenge is live right now. There's no draft in this. There's no salary cap. You're just picking 10 players or 12 players if you want to play with kickers and defenses, one player per team. So if you want Patrick Mahomes, you can't have Rashee Rice. If you want Justin Jefferson, you can't have Jordan Mason. You can win up to $2,500. 10, 30, and 100 team contests are available there. Again, myffpc.com. Let's get on with the latest edition of the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live. I'll give you the FFPC family of podcasts live schedule for this week coming up at the end of the show. Let's bring in our guest, joined tonight by a guy who's currently fifth place in the FFPC Big Gorilla tournament this year, a competition that's going to pay out a $1 million grand prize. Please welcome back onto the show. You connect with him on X at Tommy Island 69. He is the one, the only, the incomparable Tommy Herrin. Tommy, good evening. Welcome.
Balky, how you doing, my brother? Good to see you. Good to see you.
Doing good, man. Doing good. Glad to see you as well. I always feel like this time of year, right around, like mid-October, late October, you always seem to have one or two teams pretty high up on the leaderboard. And here, as we sit going into the bipocalypse of week 8, you're fifth place overall, man. How does it feel?
It feels great. I'm actually, I'm positioned better than I was last year. And, if you remember back last year, I'll brag a little bit. I made a hell of a run to third place finish. And that team actually was not in this spot throughout, at this point. So it's pretty good to have some. And I've got quite a few others. I always look at trying to have anything in the top 1,000, 1,500, even 2,000 at this point, because they all have a chance. And you look at the bigger picture. But it's really cool. Hey, look, I'm going for I'd like to have that top 10 for regular season. And if I'm not mistaken, this is an early Rampage team.
Yes, it is.
So, there's another prize there. So I think this one's doing pretty well in that. So,
yeah, it's awesome to see. Obviously, I'm looking at this team and I'm just blown away by the talent and how everything has sort of come together so far on this squad. We'll get into the quarterbacks in a second, but McCaffrey's been a hit for you. Obviously, with Aaron Jones going on IR, you've been able to take advantage of Jordan Mason. Stephon Diggs has had some good games. Harold Fannin has definitely been paying off in his ADP. You had Rome Odunze earlier. We'll get into Rome Odunze a little bit later on, but Cortland Sutton's been crushing it. You obviously had Rico Dowdle on this team, probably the best wide receiver in fantasy football, not named Puka Nacua. Jackson Smith and Jigba is on this team. And quite frankly, Tommy, you got to be excited looking at this squad, knowing you're fifth place overall. And was it your first round pick? It had to be your second round pick. I'm looking at this. I got to look this up right now to find out exactly when you took these guys. But basically all those players I mentioned, it was your first round pick, Brock Bowers has done very little for you so far because he's been hurt. And once he gets back, certainly that's another guy you can deploy. And oh, by the way, you took Rashee Rice in the 4th round, a guy that already paid dividends in week 7 and hopefully much more to come. So you've got up to 5th place overall. And that's without basically 2 of your top 4 picks. Been pretty incredible. I mean, this is great drafting, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It's you don't know at the time. I drafted, I believe, I think this is a March draft. So it was a slow draft. This is my second
February. This is a February draft time.
There you go. So yeah, so you have some decisions. So it plays out on bye weeks that you don't know how to play out on bye weeks. So so those things factor in, but it works out well because I think you draft without thinking about that. I think sometimes you let those things get in your way. And so it's worked out. The team I had last year was the very first team I drafted, and I had drafted that in April. I went a little earlier this year just because. Why not?
Why not? Yeah. I mean, it seems like the earlier you draft, the better the team is. So there is some, I say that all the time. I mean, you draft early. One of the KFFSCs I drafted early this year has been really, really good. It's off to a 6-1 start. And part of the reason is because that ADP hadn't settled yet. So I was able to take advantage on some values like you did here as well. Patrick Mahomes in the 8th round, I would say that's paying off pretty nicely too, Tommy. And that's what I want to open up with tonight because I didn't even mention the quarterbacks when I ran through the litany of how talented your skill position guys are on this team. You also have Patrick Mahomes. You also have Dak Prescott. Now, picking between those two is obviously going to be difficult enough for any fantasy owner from week to week. But to throw another pepper in the gumbo, you also have Michael Penix on this team as well. Is there a reason for that? Is this a short-term play? Why would you muddy the waters even more when if I had Mahomes and Prescott, God, I don't know which week is the right week to start even those 2 guys, and you got a 3rd guy here.
Yeah, it was a simple answer. I mean, trust me, I wouldn't go after Michael Penix. I held my nose when I went out and got him. But remember, I drafted in February. Mm-hmm. So Dak, Rain Dakota, and Patty and Mahomes both have by week 10. So this team's performing really well. I looked ahead because every point counts at this moment. I mean, at this point, every point matters. And, at the end of the year, like last year, 2nd place, I missed 2nd place by 2.5 points. Oh. So you know what I'm saying? So every single point counts. So I'm just trying to add it up. So I just went out and I said, all right, they both have by weeks 10. Let's go see who's out there at quarterback. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you the craptasticness that was out there. Michael Penix reigned supreme. So even though Joe Flacco was out there, Joe Flacco has by week 10. So yeah, so it's so no go. So I decided to go ahead and do it now. And that way, just in case, if somebody else better comes along, I'll make a move. But I decided to just go ahead and make that move. And then that way I'm ready for week 10 because I think you have to be proactive.
You definitely do. And I think that's smart because worst case scenario, you drop Penix for a player that you need until then, and then you figure it out later. But as long as you can manage it right now, and obviously with how talented this roster is, you are able to manage it. I think that's just smart fantasy football to keep that guy on your roster, get it now, fix the problem now. And if you got to refix it later, you got to refix it later. But right now it's solved, which is
he'll be dropped in week 11. I can promise you that.
Exactly. Yeah. Then there's no reason, obviously. So go to Carolina. Which you know very well. Week 7, we saw a pretty even split, I would say, between Dowdle and between Chuba Hubbard. And I think that the more efficient player between the touch split was Dowdle. Given what you saw with these 2 guys sort of, back after Dowdle had his big 2 weeks, how much do you think that Dowdle is going to be a solid start going forward at a minimum because I mean, this is something that you'll have to decide with this roster, maybe some of your other rosters as well. What did you see did you see enough from Dowdle in week 7 to feel good about flexing him out going forward?
Yeah. I mean, I think you hit on the head. You said flex. he's going to be an RB2. My weakest point, I'm loaded on this team, but my weakest point is RB2. I mean, I've got CMC, which is great to have, but I'm looking at Tony Pollard, I'm looking at Rico Dowdle, and I'm looking at Jordan Mason. Now I started Jordan Mason this week. I had Dowdle in there, and probably an hour before game time, I decided to make the switch to Jordan Mason, especially when I got the news that they were going to flip-flop series. So that said, I'm still good with that because I think all those guys have that 10-point kind of solid floor. They're not bad to have. They're more flex, but when you're loaded everywhere else, it's okay. You're not going to get 20 points out of every position. I'm good with Dowdle moving forward. I think he showed enough. I do want to wait and see where it all shakes out. Will they alternate series the rest of the year? Who knows? I mean, they both got good touches. Dowdle got like 18 touches. Mm-hmm. And that's a pretty good, if you think about the volatility of the running back position right now, that's not bad. And I think Chuba got like 16. So he was more efficient than Chuba. I think they're both really good running backs. I think Carolina's going to have to run the ball more, and they're going to put them both out there. So I'm good having him. Will I play him every week? Hell no. But will I play him some weeks? Probably. And I'm going to play Jordan Mason this week, assuming. I mean, I think he's got a good matchup with the Chargers, who have been less that they used to be a really good run defense. They're not as good. Assuming even if Aaron Jones comes back, I mean, they just activated him. So I got at least one more week out of Jordan Mason to let it kind of all shake out.
Yeah, I think that's smart too. I in the leagues I have Mason, I'll more than likely, especially with 6 teams on bye, I'll more than likely be playing him this week. I'm not too concerned with Aaron Jones in week 8. That's more of a week 9, week 10 problem once he gets, back into football shape and proves that his hamstring injury is behind him. Regarding Dowdle too, I think that's sort of the same attitude I have as with Mason, right? It's tough to bench a guy like that, knowing that he put up the better part of 500 scrimmage yards in back-to-back weeks, and still got 18 touches when the quote-unquote starter came back last week. I think you're probably going to have to lean more. Most people watching and most people listening to this probably understand that they're probably going to have to play Dowdle in more leagues than sitting him, obviously.
And he was a nice ad too, by the way. He was I might have drafted him in this league, but I know I've got a couple of shares of him. And I was able to pick him up in some leagues prior to all this. So, it's that's a nice to have. It's like a nice ad because you're not counting on him.
You did draft Dowdle in the 10th round in this league, and I'm also looking. I don't think this guy is still on your team. I'm sure
he was still with Dallas then. That's right. He was still with Dallas.
Yeah, and the 20th round pick that you had in this league, Tommy. I'm sure you wish you had this guy back on your roster. Kamani Vidal was your 20th round pick, which would be helping your RB2 right now. But I know
right now, yeah. But when Hampton comes back, Vidal's fine. He's looked good. Like I've been wrong about him. I was back and forth when Haskins and him were out there, and it was, yeah. No, I would have liked him, but there's no way I could have held Vidal this long.
Right. Yeah. And the other thing too is, I mean, look at everything that had to happen for Vidal to have this role. I mean, you're drafting this team in February. This is back when, Najee Harris I don't even know if he'd signed the deal with the Chargers yet. He may have. And then they drafted Hampton. So, I mean, it's fun to think about, to say that you had Vidal. Never making it this far. Speaking of returns, Rashee Rice came back this past week for the Chiefs, beg your pardon. And if we look a little bit deeper into the numbers here, he obviously was not out there a ton on the field. But when he was, Tommy, he was targeted a lot. He was utilized a lot in this game for the Chiefs, who basically only played like 3 quarters because they were blasting the Raiders so bad. They took out their starters, including Patrick Mahomes, at the end of the 3rd quarter. Rashee Rice saw 10 targets. The next closest person on the team had half that amount, Brashard Smith, with 5. Of those 10 targets, Rice caught 7 of them, only for 42 yards, but he did get into the end zone twice. The question here is, what's the likelihood that you think we saw Rashee Rice's best game of the season in this, whatever it was, 23.2 performance in week 7? Or do you think there's even bigger things for coming for this guy? And this was just his sort of like ease back into the offense. Are we going to see even bigger blow-up games coming from him going forward?
I hope. First of all, God, I hope so. I'm kind of planning on it, but you know, I certainly don't think it's his. This is his ceiling game. He's going to get more. He's going to get more snaps, and they're going to feed him. I don't see them veering off. Maybe he doesn't get Maybe he doesn't get the share that he got, but he's going to get. I mean, he did this before. If you remember back to last year, the first 3-4 games of the year, it was Rashee Rice was top 5 wide receiver, and I mean, he changes that offense. They did feed him. He benefited from the touches in the red zone, and he actually would have had a bigger game. He would have had a 3rd touchdown, and they caught it back. He had another one. So I think look. I've got 9 shares of him. I was all in on Rice, and about 6 of those shares that I have are teams that are in the top 4. So I'm in the playoffs in the division. So I feel, or 5 or 6 of them. So I mean, I feel like I hit the jackpot with it. It's wheels up for Rashee Rice. And he's going to have a week or so where, you know, it happens with everybody. But I'm counting on him having some bigger weeks. And by the way, he's got Washington this week.
Yes. And I should look at that too, which I thought I had it up here. Yeah, I do. The total on that Commanders game is at 47.5.
Yeah.
And that is in Arrowhead. Chiefs are 10-point favorites, so maybe not the greatest game script for him. But as we saw on Sunday, game script be damned. Patrick Mahomes went crazy, and so did Rashee Rice. He could do that again in week 8 too against Washington. By the way, going back to last year, Tommy, 7 for 103. 5 for 75 and a touchdown, 12 for 110 and a touchdown. Then he gets hurt week 4. That's some pretty significant receiving lines for Rice.
Yeah. I mean, how does that change? I mean, I just don't know how it doesn't get back to that. They're building him up. I mean, this is a guy who hadn't played in 6 weeks because he didn't practice with him for 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
He practiced somewhere, obviously.
Right. I think I'm trying to come up in my mind how it changes. And unless, you know, like I can't imagine with Xavier Worthy's shoulder as bad as it is, I can't imagine him all of a sudden becoming a primary function or a primary target on this offense. He's more of a secondary or tertiary. You make the same case about with Travis Kelce. And why would you go to Smith-Schuster? Why would you go to Hollywood Brown? Why would you go to Tyquan Thornton when you have Rice back in there? So yeah, I mean, he should have double-digit targets every game that he ends the game healthy the rest of the way. I don't see any way around that. And sometimes it's going to be a lot more than just double-digit targets. Could get 15 and 16 territory too.
I hope that's this week. And the following week.
Every week.
Not week 10. You know, the only week I don't want that to happen is week 10.
Because he's on bye.
Correct.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because the biggest part of week 10, we're in trouble.
Let's go. By the way, there's a conversation between Tom Smith and Bill Hollywood in the chat right now. And Bill is saying that Rashee Rice is a top 5 wideout. Tom brings this up. Do you think he outperforms Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, Justin Jefferson, Jackson Smith and Jigba, Amon-Ra St. Brown going forward? Would you put Rashee Rice ahead of any of those guys rest of the season, Tommy?
No, but I'd put him in those ranks. I mean, I would put him up there. Yeah, I mean, I think those other guys have. I mean, I don't want to curse anything with JSN. I'll just say that. He's like, I'm just going to stop right there. St. Brown is having one hell of a year. Look, Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and Chase are elite, and that's why they were drafted in the top 3. So, but I think Rice is in that. You know, if you think about it, throw those guys out. So St. Brown and JSN moved into that discussion. You replace Malik Neighbors, BTJ, all those guys that were going, Nico Collins, just eliminate those and put these 3 guys in there. And that's where we're at.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me, at least. I think it makes sense to most people as well. Shifting the conversation, running backs, I want to go to Ray C right now on YouTube. Can we now drop Travion Henderson for Kyle Monangai? I have some thoughts on this, Tommy, or at least one thought. I'll let you weigh in on this first. If you had Travion Henderson on a roster and Kyle Monangai was hanging out there, what would you do?
I would drop somebody else. I mean, at this point, you drafted. There's no way I'm dropping Travion Henderson at this point with where you drafted him. I mean, unless you got him in the 15th round. I mean, look, it doesn't look good, but at this point, we do know. I mean, look, it's bad. Apparently, he's in Vrabel's doghouse. He can't pick up the blitz. He was supposed to be a good blocker. He's apparently not, but he does have upside. I mean, we're week 8. We still got time ahead. And if something happens to Ramondre, I mean, maybe they bring in those other, running back 6, 7, 8, 9 off their practice squad to replace Ramondre if it happens. But I mean, I like Monangai. I think some of that was game script. I think Monangai, I think he's getting good. I mean, look, he's a good running back. I've got some shares of him. I'm not going to try to bid on this week because I'm not going to be able to afford him, and I'm not willing to pay that. And I don't think DeAndre Swift's getting the credit he deserves for the last 2 weeks he's had. Nobody's talking about him. Everybody's talking about Monangai because they like the shiny new toy out there. And so would I go get Monangai? Yeah, if I needed to. I mean, yes, if I could. But I'm not dropping Travion Henderson for it. Long story short.
Yeah, it's tough for me. And I'm a long time, and to my own detriment, Tommy, where I invest heavy draft capital on a guy, and the worst I do is just bury him on my bench and wait for something to happen. Yeah. The same reason you would want to pick up Kyle Monangai is the same reason you want to keep Travion Henderson around. And that's if there's an injury to Swift, if there's an injury to Stevenson. Obviously, these guys are in real prime position to put up some numbers for you. The difference for me, and I'm with you, I think that, the Bears aren't going to play the Saints every single week. And I wonder how much of that usage of Monangai that he got was because of them leading that game and winning that game. In regards to Henderson, he's a much more pedigreed guy than Monangai. Yes. And I feel like, and again, this could be to my own detriment, but because of what I invested in him in drafts, I feel like I am dropping him at his bare bottom value right now. Like it's only going to go up. And when it does go up, or if it does go up, and I know the odds are against that this season, I want it to be on my roster. We've seen a lot of these rookies, mostly receivers, but sometimes running backs, where they come on the second half of the season. Is that what New England's doing? I don't know. My guess is probably not because of Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels there. But there's a chance that they could unleash him in November and in December. So, and it didn't help that Stevenson had the really good game this past week either. But I would not be dropping him for Kyle Monangai right now. Raptor J is said that he dropped Henderson in a 5-man bench team last week, which I get. 5-man benches and you got 6 teams on bye, decisions have to be made, right? But in a 12-team, 20-man roster, I think you got to kind of find a way to keep Henderson on your bench and go down with the ship, as it were. I was telling one of my local listeners to my local fantasy football show here in Appleton, I said, he said, is Henderson worth keeping around? Is there any value there? I said, well, I think there's value, but he's not going to become startable unless Ramondre Stevenson goes and gets hurt. So I said, we'll lose together. We'll go down the ship together and we'll figure it out. But I put it this way. If Henderson was out there, I'd try to find a way to get him on my roster.
He would go, look, he would command more fab dollars like in FFPC. So I'm speaking specifically, like I get the 5-man, the home leagues and everything else, completely different story here. But with the 3-week sprint at the end, let me tell you, if you have a chance to have, if how running backs somehow, rookies somehow come out better right after the bye week.
Right.
Well, their bye week's not until week, 14. So maybe that's 15, 16, and 17. So I don't want him on anybody else's roster at that point. It's kind of like Joe Burrow at this point, who's looking like he's going to, I'm not dropping Joe Burrow. I'm holding him because I'm not going to let somebody else have him for weeks 15, 16, or 17 and win a championship with it.
I did drop him.
Oh,
I mean, at the time, I mean, it was probably an emotional.
It's been tough, right?
Yeah, it was probably somewhat of an emotional drop, and I just wanted to get ahead of it. I mean, I don't know if I regret it because I don't know if I've been able to keep him on my roster this whole way anyway with buys and everything. And I don't know. I mean, I'm sure he's been picked up since then, but yeah, I mean, that could be a game changer. So I feel like the Go Bills guys, picked up Joe Burrow the first time they won the FFPC main event, which I don't know what year that was. Was that 2020?
Did they win back to back?
They won back to back. Yeah. And I think the 2019 year, somebody dropped Burrow and they picked up Burrow and ended up coasting into a $500,000 grand prize that year because of that. So, we'll see what happens with that. By the way, the other thing I want to bring up, Tom Smith said that Kyle Monunga is not available in that many FFPC leagues. I can tell you right now, in the FFPC main event, he is owned in 98% of those leagues, and that was going into week 7. So there you go on that. Here's another fun player that I think is great for best ball, Tommy. You have him on your fifth place Big Gorilla team, and that's Marvin Mims. We saw, and I don't want to use what happened against the Giants in week 7 as the prime example of why you want to keep a guy like Mims around, because the fourth quarter of that game for Denver was just absolutely insane for Sutton, for Mims, for Engram, for Troy Franklin. My thing with Mims, and I have him on a couple of Kentucky rosters. I haven't dropped him. He's still on my team. I think about dropping him, and I haven't yet. Why do you think players should still keep him on their rosters in these managed leagues where you got to figure out who you're starting on a week-to-week basis, when on a week-to-week basis, we really don't know who the number 2 receiver or maybe even the number 3 passing option is going to be on that Denver offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit on it there. It's you don't know, but he's been there, right? He's been there several years. He's been in that offense, and he does get touches. Now, I've looked at his stats, and he's had like 2 or 3 good games, double-digit games, and then he's had a couple of sub 5-point games, so hopefully I don't ever have to use him. But I know in the case of my Tommy Allen 2 team, I've got Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton goes down. It's kind of a handcuff. I don't normally handcuff wide receivers, but I mean, if you remember last year, Marvin Mims had that stretch where he had 2 touchdowns, back-to-back games, or he had that run. So he's been there and done that, and I think feel like he's a little safer than. And I know Troy Franklin has that old gel with Bo Nix and all that. But I mean, I feel like he's got an opportunity. So if you're in a pinch, he's not a bad play. So you could have a lot worse to go out there. I mean, there's a lot worse out there. I mean, how many people picked up McCaffrey this week for Washington and got the goose?
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense, especially on these high-powered offenses. Now, I don't know if Denver's as high-powered as Washington, but maybe.
Right.
And to your credit, I mean, Cortland Sutton earlier, I think it was earlier this season. I don't think it was in the preseason. I think it was earlier this season. He was asked who the number 2 receiver on this team is, and Sutton did say, he's like, well, I think it's Marvin Mims. He thinks it's Mims. And so who are we to disagree with Sutton? And then at that point for your roster, it definitely makes sense to have Mims on your team. If you did not have Sutton on your team, Tommy, would Mims still be a guy you want to keep around?
Depending on who's out there. I mean, it's like it would truly depend on who's out there. I mean, think about it. Mims gets carries too. He gets at least 1 or 2 end arounds a game. So, and then he returns. So I hate that. Don't even get into that. I know you can't cut on a return. So, but he gets touches.
Yeah, and he'll get the action scoring on those returns if he houses them for a touchdown for sure.
Yeah.
The opposite of a high-powered offense was what we saw with Justin Fields and the Jets this past week, to the point where even Aaron Glenn decided to put in Tyrod Taylor. Woody Johnson, the owner for the Jets, didn't necessarily say anything too nice about Justin Fields in his remarks to the media this week as well. So if the Jets do, and it seems like they're leaning towards going with Tyrod Taylor this week, if Tyrod Taylor is the new starting quarterback for the Jets, how close to a must start does Mason Taylor become in FFPC tight end premium leagues?
So you could look it up. He's my highest on tight end, but the good news is he's at best my tight end 2, in most cases a tight end 3 on all my teams. So I think I've got like 16 shares of him, but I'm something that in that area. But I've been big on him this year. I don't know if he's a must start rest of the way. I think he becomes a good start the rest of the way. In some cases, a flex, but this week, I think he's going to be click for a couple of reasons. McBride, Laporta, Broccoli Bowers, all on bye. And then add in that he's in Cincinnati for the all-you-can-eat lunch buffet against tight end. I mean, it is. Look, if you look at, I think Cincinnati's given up touchdowns in all but 2 weeks, and they gave up 4 touchdowns to tight ends to the Steelers last week. They gave up. I mean, they are the worst in the NFL against tight ends. So if Tyrod's in there, I mean, it is click.
And I just looked this up on Fantasy Mojo, at Fantasy Mojo on X, fantasymojo.com. Darren Armani's the guy who runs that site. He's also the godfather of the Pros versus Joes Challenge. If you're playing in the FFPC, highly recommend you get a membership to Fantasy Mojo. Just looked at it last week, knowing that Justin Fields was the quarterback for the Jets. FFPC main event players, 71% of them still started Mason Taylor last week. So high percentage, and that should only go up with Tyrod Taylor too.
His 7.6 points, I think, all came with Taylor, right?
Yeah, I think you're right.
Throwing the ball at the end of the game. I was watching it. I watch all the games at one point on all the TVs in the living room, and I'm like watching. I'm like, oh. Go figure. They finally start throwing the ball to Mason Taylor because I had him going into some leagues.
And the other thing we should mention too, and I don't think you did. Forgive me if you did. Probably no Garrett Wilson this week as well. So you're looking at Tyrod Taylor, pumping the ball in probably as his primary option to Mason Taylor. Josh Reynolds got
counting on that last week, to be honest. but I was counting on Justin Fields actually fundamentally throwing the ball.
Yes, exactly. Another quarterback change could be on the horizon in Carolina, this time for an injury. I'm assuming that Andy Dalton is, honestly, we might be able to assume he's the starting quarterback for the Panthers, not only in week 8, but going, next week as well. Although I don't know when the Panthers bye week is, so I'd have to look that up. 14. Okay, perfect. So we got a ways to go on that. How much better is Teteroa McMillan of a start with Dalton rather than Bryce Young? Or do you think the difference is negligible between the two?
I think he's I don't think he gets worse. I think he's a start either way. He's a good start. I'm still bullish on him. He's one of my higher on wide receivers, and he's been good. His target share has been good. They just can't quite connect. I feel like he's getting really close. He got, the 1 week he didn't get all the targets. He got touchdowns. And now he gets the poor man version of Joe Flacco. Mm-hmm. So, because I feel like that's what Andy Dalton is. And the Bills defense it's not like they've been prolific. Now, I'm not saying I won't stream Buffalo's defense this week against Andy Dalton because I think he's probably good for a few picks. But I think Teteroa comes up a little bit. And I also think this week he's a must click, especially given all the buys. In Mageddon, it is especially a wide receiver with the BTJs, the Pukas, and go down the board, St. Brown. So,
do you make anything of Xavier Legette 9 for 92 and the touchdown last week on 11 targets?
Yeah,
McMillan 3 for 33 on 5 targets.
Yeah, it's interesting. I dropped Leggett in some leagues.
Me
I
too.
was back and forth, and he's frustrating. I don't know if I'm going to fall for that banana in the tailpipe on Leggett because the one thing he does seem to get is red zone targets. He's kind of like that earlier version of Quentin Johnston, but I don't think he's eating into Tedero McMillan. Tedero McMillan's a much better receiver. And I think Leggett, he is what he is. And until he proves he's not.
I think the other thing, and this is what I keep coming back to every time I look at that Carolina game, Sauce Gardner was following Tedero McMillan around in that game. And it was opening up Xavier Leggett for a lot of primary reads on a lot of plays because Dalton, Young, they just weren't throwing to McMillan. That's not going to be the case every week. And Leggett, granted, this could be a breakout. We could be seeing the cusp of a breakout. It certainly wouldn't shock me. It would surprise me. But I gave up on Leggett. I gave up on Leggett in a dynasty league too, where I'm just like, you know what? I don't see it. And I might come to regret that, but I don't think I will.
I think you hit it though with Sauce Gardner. Look, Sauce took out Cortland Sutton, and that hit. I had Cortland Sutton on my team too, and I'm watching. I'm like, give him the ball, and Sauce Gardner every time, and it was just like. So I think you hit it on the head. It was Sauce Gardner.
I want to bring up what Ray C is posting in YouTube. What's wrong with Brian Thomas Jr.? I was high on him this year. Tom Smith is saying Butterfingers, and Trevor Lawrence too, obviously not contributing to Brian Thomas Jr. I think this is I'll let you weigh in on this, Tommy, but I just with everything what I saw last year, maybe Thomas was just punching above his weight and he is not as good as what we saw in 2024. I still think he's a very good receiver. I still think he's a guy you want to be in business with in Dynasty. This just could be, I don't know, first year of Liam Cohen's offense. He's maybe thinking too much rather than just, playing and reacting. I don't know, but I'm still a believer in Thomas Jr. We've seen shades of him starting to turn it around. It seems like every single time he takes 2 steps forward, he takes another step back, but I do think he's going to figure it out.
I agree. He's probably not what he was last year. I think his talent's still stellar and better than, he's in the very top percentile at wide receiver. I think the last 2 weeks prior to this week, he showed a lot, and he showed me it was coming. And I think he and Trev started kind of getting together a little bit. And I think you feed him and you get him going. And I think it's the kind of touches you give him. I get frustrated as hell. I've got a lot of shares of BTJ, and I get frustrated as hell every time I look downfield. I'm like, oh, is that number 7? Nope, it's De'Ami Brown. And
Washington
number 5. So he needs to go away. But I think this week, I truly believe, and Jeff Antley and I were talking about this quite a bit. He got injured in that game. I think his shoulder has been bothering him. I think that was part of the misses. The shoulder was at some point, that shoulder was an issue the whole game, and those misses that he had, I feel like there's something correlated to that. And I don't know. I'm not a doctor, and if I was, we'd be in trouble. But I do think there's a correlation there. So this is the perfect time for his bye. And I'm good with it because he got banged up at the end of the game going the bye. I think there's some frustration there, which I think that's immaturity on his part. So I'm in with him. I'm clicking the button every week when he comes back.
Yeah, the shoulder I think is the biggest concern for me right now. This is a guy that you could I'm with you, Tommy. I think you could tell that he just wasn't right, and then the hit that ended up taking him out of the game wasn't really a hit at all. It was just sort of like kind of a shove, and he just looked like he was in immense pain. So I don't know how bad this shoulder's been. I don't know how long this shoulder's been this bad, but certainly didn't look great. That's my biggest. Yeah. And yeah, there's another one that he gave up on a play just where he could have caught it and he decided to avoid contact instead. I think that he is protecting his body, just natural human reaction to protect your body. And I also think he does need a little bit of jolt of confidence in him. And once he starts making a few of those plays, if his shoulder's right, we're going to get to see the Brian Thomas we saw last year. But until that happens, and it might still be a couple weeks away from that happening, I think we're going to have to put up with these kind of up and down games. Did I lose it, Tommy?
Yeah, you don't want to miss them too. It's like Arthur Juan Brown. Yeah, are you good? You got me?
You're good. Yeah, keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, it's like AJ Brown. He was on some benches this week. He's back and forth, and it's like you don't want to miss him because you're going to have to. It's the old Julio Jones. You get the 3 for 30, or you get you don't want to miss the 17 for 300. So if that ever happened with BTJ, I'd really be ecstatic. So.
People were ecstatic this past week for those of us who had rostered Aronde Gadsden. He's rostered, by the way, in nearly every single FFPC main event, over 99% of them. However, last week, Tommy only started, and I guess this isn't a big surprise, only started in 29% of FFPC main event leagues. Do you think this was a one-off of what we saw in week 7? And if it's not a one-off, second part of the question is, which Chargers receiver is going to take the biggest hit if Gadsden is going to, be keeping this up as a significant part of this Los Angeles passing attack?
I think it's a little combination of that. So I think he's good. I liked him coming in. I don't have that many shares because it's more of those. I was in that Harold Fannin. I mean, he was a little behind the Fannins, but he's in that range of the Fannin. Little behind Mason Taylor early on in the draft season, but I don't think we can ever expect to see this again. I'm not clicking the button. I'm very surprised to hear that 29% of teams clicked that button this week. I think a lot of those probably had Brock Bowers, or they had Dalton Kincaid, or and they were playing that by necessity. Either that or they're very smart and a lot smarter than I am. But I do think he's got a part in the offense. I think, long story short, he's their tight end 1, which is not a bad thing. But I think you're going to have volatility because they got 3 mouths to feed. I think the one who takes the most hit more than likely is Quentin Johnston. And it's going to be dictated by the defensive scheme that they're playing against. So Quentin Johnston and Keenan Allen both like the zone and man coverage. And this week it was a zone coverage or cover scheme. So it was Keenan Allen. Now Quentin Johnston took a hit this week, to be honest. He got that touchdown, but I played him in some leagues and was like, thank God he got that touchdown because it saved a day. It saved a fantasy day. So I think that's where it's at. I don't think McConkey's affected by it because he's a man guy and he exploits man coverage. And what I will tell you, and I want to say this because I love saying this, anytime I can work this in, if you've got man coverage, do not be a donkey. Make sure you start Ladd McConkey. So please. He is. I mean, and so I think he's protected on that. I think that's where it's going to
come. I have to point out that, and you alluded to this, Quentin Johnston 2 for 30 and a touchdown. If he doesn't catch that touchdown, he ends up with 2.5 points, which is not great, Bob. If that's the case going forward here. Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt question from Tom Smith. What's going on with him? I was really happy to start him in a couple of leagues this past week against that Dallas defense, Tommy, and really was not rewarded. Cowboys dominated that game. Krosky-Merritt does get the ball 13 times. He only gets 33 yards, cedes a game or a touchdown late in the game to Chris Rodriguez, which, I mean, it basically was over with at that point. They weren't really playing him. Jaden Daniels is a guy that got dinged up in this game, and he was already playing without his top 3 receivers in Noah Brown, Deebo Samuel, and Terry McLaurin. I just feel like this was one of those rare circumstances where Dallas could focus in on trying to take the best playmaker away from the Commanders, and that was Krosky Merritt. And they did exactly that because Washington just did not have the horses to threaten the Cowboys defense and stretch him out. So I think that's what was going on with him this past week, but he's got the Chiefs this week. That's not an easy matchup either. Just Tommy, do I still have you?
For me, he's one of my guys that I'm not out on. I still believe it. Yeah, can you have me?
Yep, you're good. You're good.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
You froze on my screen, so I don't know if it's me or if it's you.
You're good. You're good. Keep going.
Okay. All right, got it. It must be me. Oh, it's not me. It's you. We're George Costanza. Okay, got it. We're doing George Costanza. It's not me. It's you. No, so I'm not out on him, but like it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to start him this week. But if you don't have another option, you're gonna have to, especially in some of these bye weeks. So I mean, in some cases you might have to flex him. So I still think he's the alpha number one. I'm not worried about Chris Rodriguez. In fact, I'm dropping Chris Rodriguez at this point in some leagues because I tried to figure out a way to have at least one of the three at some point and let it figure. But I feel like C-Rod is kind of the odd man out, and I'm not counting on that. He's the poorest man's version of Kareem Hunt, and that's not a good place. So
no.
Yeah, so JCM I'll play, but yeah, he looks the part. He still looks good.
Another question, excuse me, from the YouTube chat. Bob Hope wants to know, should he drop Tyler? And we'll do this in pieces here, 3 pieces. Would you drop Tyler Algier for Romeo Doubs? Seems to be like a shorter bench league. This is tough for me. It kind of depends. If you need the receiver help this week, I get it. I would try to keep Algier around just in case anything happens to Robinson. But if you need a wideout this week, I think Romeo Doubs is a fine choice against Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I think it depends on the league. I think you hit it on the head. Because if it's an FFPC and like there's a lot of buys, look, Algier they've got Miami this week. I mean, Algier might score 2 touchdowns this week against that. So it depends on the situation. If you have to have a wide receiver spot start, then you gotta get Dobbs. I like Dobbs, but he's not a must-have and a must-start. So I think KC or Falcons, it's probably Falcons with their matchup, and I think Fannin or Pitts, flip a coin. They're both good. I love Harold Fannin. I think it depends on the scoring format. I was hoping for more from Fannin this week, but I've got him on my best team, and I was more than pleased at the end for him to get a lot of garbage time and get 9.6 points because you get the point and a half. But Pitts is. I think that depends on the scoring. It's hard to say not knowing the scoring.
Yeah, it's close for me. I'm going to lean towards Fannin against the Patriots versus Pitts against the Dolphins. As far as the defense goes, I will say that the better start this week is probably Atlanta, although it's close. However, if you have to drop the Chiefs in order to get the Falcons, I would not do that. I would still keep the Chiefs defense around. If you have them both, I would say Atlanta. Okay. Let's see. Speaking of the Chiefs, let's go to Brashard Smith. What do you make of his high usage in the fourth quarter, Tommy, against the Raiders? And bear in mind, while he did have a lot of usage in the fourth quarter, I do believe he had 5 targets in quarters 1 through 3. So they were still working him in. This is a very intriguing guy to keep on your roster and see what happens down the stretch.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. I think he was building steam already. They were working him in. Think of, maybe a better version of Jerick McKinnon. That's who kind of came to my mind originally when he was first drafted. And I think the fourth quarter usage was the carries, and they got to see him in the run game. And he didn't disappoint. He looked good. And So I think it's just going to bring more. It's going to be more. I don't know what that means with Kansas City, because now that means you've got Plotter, Kareem Hunt, you've got Pacheco, who when he slows down a little bit, Pacheco's actually looking a little better recently because I feel like he's just slowed down. He's running a little better. But, I think they were very vocal about trying to get Brashard Smith more involved. So, I think there's something there, and I think he's definitely somebody to have on your roster, and definitely somebody could be nice to have in weeks 15, 16, 17.
You got to keep him around. You got to find a way, because a player of his explosiveness could be the difference. We see random running backs in the championship sprint every single year come out of nowhere. Sometimes we've seen them come from Kansas City as well. And I think that the two guys ahead of him in Pacheco and Kareem Hunt, neither one of them are spring chickens anymore. We both seen them get dinged up with injuries. This could be an interesting guy that might be a top 20 running back in that final 3 weeks of the season. So I know he's going to be dropped this week in a few leagues because of everybody trying to scramble to get their lineups, in order with 6 teams on bye. But still, keep him around if you can. Roma Dunze got off to a really good start this year, but the last 2-3 weeks for Chicago haven't been that great for Odunze. And not only is he not being targeted a whole bunch, but a lot of the targets he's seeing aren't the most catchable, high percentage ones in the world. I've, for the most part, been just automatically starting him and putting him in my lineups. I don't think too much about it. Tommy, and now I'm starting to think like, you know what? Maybe I do need to start thinking about this a little bit more. Maybe I need to look at this closer before I automatically click Odunze. Now, this week, probably should be in there. I mean, that total on that Bears-Ravens game is 49.5, and the Ravens are 6.5 favorites. So, you got to get Odunze in there this week. But it is a little concerning what I've seen from him the last few weeks. Are you concerned?
No, he had a tough week a couple weeks ago, or 2 weeks. He had a touchdown taken off the board, a really impressive touchdown. So he puts up 15 points if that's not called back, and it was a very questionable. It was the Monday night game, right? And it was a very questionable call. So he's not as bad stat-wise in that game if that touchdown is not called. On a bad week, I think he's still good. He's not what we saw the first 4 weeks. I don't know if we could ever expect that, and I probably needed to pump the brakes a little bit on him. But he's still Caleb's number one. They've been trying to feed around. We've seen Caleb do this before. Caleb dips and then he comes back up. So I'm still starting him until he gives me full reason. I mean, he's going to have to do that multiple, like 2-3 more weeks for me to bench him. He's still their number one.
Yeah, he is. And I think that if you look at the underlying metrics, they are a little encouraging there.
Did I lose you, Balky?
Oh, no, you still got me. You still got me. I still got you as well. Well, we're fighting the internet for the last few minutes here, but we'll try to do one more question with you, Tommy. Final question.
Perfect. Okay.
What one player that you're looking at targeting on the waiver wire this week, and then a player you're ready to give up on? We've kind of touched on both of these types of players throughout the broadcast tonight, but if there is one guy you're looking at picking up, and if there's one guy you're looking at letting go, who would those players be?
I'm not really looking at there's no one specific player because I think it's going to vary by leagues. Like there's nobody I'm going to go invest on, partially because I don't have that much fab left and I need to save a little bit by the end of the year. So the must-haves, I mean, I've seen, I went through I took a sneak peek tonight at some of the waivers, and there's some running backs that are out there, like Tyrone Tracy's out there. He's a good look. Devin Neal, good look. But other than that, I'm not situational, and then players that have been dropped, and then defense and getting the right defensive matchups and looking ahead. And And then dropping, like I said, Haskins, where I got him, I'm dropping his ass. He's done. You know, I mean, hopefully Amari and Hampton's going to be back in the next few weeks. And then maybe even Chris Rodriguez. I hit on it earlier. You know, he's been sitting on my bench, just taking up space. So yeah. And then there's some other guys. Raptor talks about Otten or Tez. If they're out there, I mean, damn. I think Tez got taken. I think both of them got taken up in most leagues last week. So, and I've got some shares of those guys already, and especially Otten. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. He says Nyheim Hines, Tom. That's a good call. I mean, I know there's some things going on there, but yeah, we'll see.
Yeah. Otten is owned in 99% of leagues. Tez Johnson's still available in about 18% of leagues out there too. So you can look at adding him for sure. And then Devin Neal, I like. Nyheim Hines is interesting. But it all depends. If you can afford to pick up Hines on your roster with 6 teams on bye, then do it and see what happens.
So much. I mean, it depends on the league. You can get a guy for $17 in one league, and they go for $397 in another league.
Right. It's true. It's very true. What also is true is Tommy Herrin is only sitting behind 4 teams in the FFPC Big Gorilla as we head in to week 8, the Bipocalypse, Bimageddon coming up. Tommy, not only do you have that team in really good shape, you got some other teams in really good shape here going forward. Good luck to you in the FFPC Big Gorilla main event, KFFSC main event as well. Always a pleasure to talk shop with you. We will continue to follow you on X at Tommy Island 69. Hopefully the ball bounces your way in week 8 and going forward. Be good, my friend. Thanks so much for coming on the show tonight. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate you so much, my friend. Thanks so much. Okay.
Absolutely. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye.
Tommy Island. That is Tommy Herrin, the 5th place team in the FFPC Big Gorilla heading into week 8, and that will complete tonight's broadcast. I want to thank the FFPC, Tommy Herrin, for hanging out tonight with me and making this podcast possible. The show is going to be live again next Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern Time. The 25-time FFPC League winner, John Pierce, is going to hop aboard. John's going to give us a unique angle, too, because he plays in a lot of the high-stakes leagues in Las Vegas, the varsity, the big payback, the high society, and waivers in there are and start sits like that. That's insane to try to win that league. Really, really competitive league. So we'll get his insight on that as well. Insider access on the Better Sports Network is live this Thursday. 4 for 4's Connor Allen is going to join me for 2 full hours as we head into that Vikings-Chargers game. We'll watch the first quarter plus with you during that show. And then live Friday night with Farrell Elliott on the High Stakes Fantasy Football Hour. Big Gorilla Week 7 9th place team owner Jason Milich will join us on that program. That's going to be a lot of fun as well. FFPC Weekly Challenge is live. No draft, no salary cap. Just pick your 10 or 12 players that you want to compete for your weekly lineups in the weekly challenge. 1 player per team. If you want Brashard Smith, you can't have Hollywood Brown. If you want Ladd McConkey, you can't have Aronde Gadsden. Only 1 player per NFL team. Win up to $2,500, 10, 30, and 100 team contests available at myffpc.com, myffpc.com. I want to remind you to like this video, subscribe to the channel, comment on the video, share it with your friends, share it with your enemies, and get notified each and every time we go live, which this channel will be doing 7:00 p.m. this Thursday night on FFPC Insider Access. For Tommy Herrin, I'm Eric Balkman. This has been the RotoViz High Stakes Lowdown. Talk with you again Thursday night.
Thank you for listening to the High Stakes Lowdown, a RotoViz podcast brought to you by the Fantasy Football Players Championship. And thanks to Grapes for our theme music. Please review the podcast on Apple Podcasts under the RotoViz radio feed. It helps us find new listeners. Contact us via email at rotovizradio@gmail.com. We'd love to hear what you think and connect with us on X at RotoVizRadio. Remember, you can always support the show by subscribing to RotoViz at a 10% discount using the code RVRadio2025 That's RVRADIO2025 through the NFL Podcast homepage at rotoviz.com/podcast.